Okay, welcome to the Adventure Within channel. Today we have a special guest with us, and her name is Joy Baker. And she's a remarkable and compassionate soul dedicated to guiding her clients on a profound journey of emotional release and healing. With a unique expertise in untangling the threads of trapped emotions resulting from trauma, Joy's work transcends conventional healing practices. In a world where the scars of life's trials often remain hidden within, Joy shines a light on the transformative power of acknowledging and releasing these hidden pains. Joy's mission is rooted in the understanding that trauma can silently shape our lives, affecting our emotions, actions, experiences, and even our physical well being. Her personal voyage led her down the rabbit hole of pain, a courageous expedition into her past that allowed her to confront and conquer her own traumas. As a result, this journey of self discovery allowed for the emergence of her intuitive healing abilities. Joy's triumphant transformation from victim to healer serves as a light of hope, demonstrating that the wounds can be turned into wisdom, scars into strength. The impact of Joy's work is undeniable. Clients who have had the privilege of experiencing her clearings and activations emerge with a renewed sense of hope, purpose, and direction. Through her guidance, they shed the weight of past traumas, paving the way for authenticity, empowerment, and a rekindled zest for life. Discover the extraordinary power of healing through Joy's compassionate guidance. Embark on a transformative journey towards a life filled with authenticity, vitality, and unbridled joy. Okay, welcome to the show, Joy. Glad to have you.
Yeah, it's great to be on your show, Andrew, and I'm looking forward to, chatting with you and seeing where this goes.
Absolutely. So, a question I like to always start off interviews with is asking just kind of like when and how did you get into spirituality? It's something I'm always fascinated with.
Good question. It was probably about 30 years ago, but it
Mm,
wasn't so much spirituality at that time. I got introduced more, it's actually through a network marketing company I was looking at, first time I'd ever looked at anything like that, and the
mhm,
power of the mind. And I started reading those books and just realizing like how powerful we are as a being, which I had no idea of. I just was living my life and didn't even realize I was in a complete state of depression my whole life. I thought
mm.
everybody was, down and depressed all the time.
Mhm,
And until then, the first 33 years of my life I worked with horses. At that time I was on the racetrack, and horses had always been they'd been a friend. That's why I wanted it was emotional connection. I wasn't able to identify it like that at that time, but I
mm,
realized it was emotional connection. But like everything in the world, even the racetrack was turning more business oriented,
mm.
and it was becoming really high stress and physically, because at that time it was 7 days a week. I was just,
Oh, wow.
I couldn't keep going physically, and so I started looking for something else and got introduced to personal growth and the power of the mind and such. And
Mm,
it was actually a few years after that. So that was about 30 years ago. In fact, it was October 1994 that I first started,
mm,
really stepped onto the path.
mm,
And then a few years after that, started to learn about energy and how
mm,
energy fields interact with people. And that just absolutely fascinated me. And then,
mhm.
I remember talking to somebody about it, and they told me about chakras. And I'm like, oh, what's this about? And
Yeah.
that fascinated me more. And then I started to find out there were energy tools and techniques I could use to work through, the trauma I'd gone through, because I went through a
Mm,
lot of trauma and
mm.
bullying and, shyness and stuff growing up. And like most people on the path, that's why we get on this path.
Yep.
And then as I got more into energy work, and I realized that everything is connected through this energy of divine love and
Mm,
oneness. And I started to realize the power in that oneness, but also knowing that we are being looked after, not
mm,
like supported by the non-physical light beings, especially the past several years, what we've been going through,
mhm,
knowing that there was is a power that is so much more powerful than us, that is supporting us and guiding us, and we're not alone.
mm.
That all of that just well, the energy work is really what hooked me, and realizing how energy fields connect people, and then group consciousness,
Mhm.
and it just fascinated me, and I really got into that, just studying and such. After I left the horses, I had about it was about 20 years before I started doing this full time
Mhm.
and the healing work. And at first, I wanted to get more into a coach, like more of a talk therapy
Mm.
approach. Then once I learned energy work and realized, that's where we really need to go to really clear it out, is to get into the energy of it.
Mhm.
And it was where was I going with this? I was gonna say I had, between the horses and doing this, I had about 35 different jobs in about 20 years span.
Oh, wow.
Because I always knew I wanted to support people on this path, but
Mhm.
I didn't believe in myself enough. And
Mm.
so I had to do my own inner work, like so many of us. Like, I often talk to people why I really want to help others,
Mhm.
but we've got to do that inner work first of all. So I just kept going from job to job because I wanted that. I wanted to be able to support others, and I was looking for a sort of freedom as well, which
Mm.
comes, I didn't realize at the time, it comes from within. That's where it starts with.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it was interesting, very interesting path for about 20 years after, I left the horses and stopped working with them, and found various jobs, and because I was always searching. But
Mm.
that was my real, it was about 30 years ago that I started having the, awakening to the power within us, and then the power all around us, the divine power.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of what you're saying, I'm sure other people can relate to, and I can definitely relate to. I used to have a dog walking business, and so just being around
Okay.
animals was very healing,
Hmm.
um, and then eventually getting into any energy work. So I can kind of relate to, and even you mentioned the bullying or kind of the dealing with shyness. And that's something I think a lot of people can relate to, and including myself. Can you talk about that journey of what that process was like working through that? Because I know a lot of people would be very interested in hearing about that.
Um, yeah, it was. I used to be so painfully shy. And my whole goal in life, that when I was a kid, my dream was to be a hermit and to live in the mountains in a cabin with my deer and dolphins. And I didn't even, that time you're a kid, I didn't think about food or anything else. I just knew I just wanted to be around animals, and that was it.
Hmm.
And yeah, a lot of bowling. I had epilepsy and a speech impediment growing up.
Mm.
So, and if you're at school and you're different, kids will pick on that.
Sure.
A lot of, stuff happening at home as well, abuse and such. So I
Mm.
just became really, really shy. And that was part of what, it wasn't a one moment, but when I was on the racetrack, I was so extremely shy. I'd work on
Mm.
the farm, I'd go to the track, I'd stay right at the stall with the horse, that was about to race. Like, I
Mm.
didn't interact with anybody.
Mm.
And I was just so shy. And I realized there had to be more to life than that. And
Mm.
then when I got introduced to that network marketing company, and I started to realize there was a whole world out there beyond horses. And I didn't know
Mm.
that before that. I just thought, if a person was not a horse person or didn't own horses or couldn't talk horses, I had no idea how to relate to them.
Right.
And how was it going? I just saw an eagle fly over above,
Oh,
and they
wow.
represent freedom to me. So it's
Ah,
perfect timing for
yeah.
them. And so going through it was, and I think many people relate to it, very, very painful. And painful, and a whole lot of fear, because,
Right.
as you know, Andrew, every time you step forward, you step into change. You're
Hmm.
stepping out of that comfort zone. You're stepping out of that familiar place where you feel safe, even if it's really, confining and limiting and depressing. If you
Hmm.
grew up in that, that's where you feel safe. That's emotional realm you're used to.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's been very painful at times, and a lot of fear. I used to be scared of everything except for nature and animals. And
Mm.
I was certainly scared of people. People terrified me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, you have that connection with animals, and
Hmm.
And then, and as I walk this spiritual journey and personal growth journey, I realized you can actually get that connection from the non-physical angelic world when you really allow yourself to be in that realm and allow yourself to feel safe.
Mm.
It That connection with everything. And so it's been an interesting journey, that's for sure. But
Mm.
I realized once I stepped on the path, it was actually when I started working with a therapist, and I guess that was the summer of '95, and had a few sessions with him, and
Mm.
I went, "Oh, this is not what I was expecting." Like he immediately went right into the deep into the unconscious conditioning,
Uh,
and I realized like this was going to be quite a interesting, painful journey. So I
mm.
actually did a list of pros and cons. And I'm like, okay, do I want to go back to what I was in? I love the horses, but it was just,
Mm.
I was in an 8-year relationship that wasn't working out. There was a lot of things. And I was so shy. And there
Mm.
was a part of me that knew there had to be more to life. And so I
Mhm.
did a list of pros and cons, and I realized I stepped on the path. Like I got to keep going forward because now I knew that, then I knew there was more to life,
Right.
and it's been interesting. It's been very interesting. But as you know,
Mhm.
like when we can tap into the courage within us, even
Mhm.
if it's just a little glimmer, it's that courage that will support a person through the fear. And so you can step into that change and take that next action. Because what I have found is what's on the other side of that fear
Mm.
is so amazing and it's freeing. And I often find like one of the number one values of people who are on this path is freedom. That's why
Mm.
you get on the path. You want freedom. You want to step out of that, traditional role we've been put into for hundreds and thousands of years. And the
Mhm.
way to really experience and achieve freedom is to step through that fear. It's not
Mm.
easy and it's scary, and it can be sometimes, as I'm sure you're aware, feel
Mm.
very alone, but
Yeah.
it's so worth it. So worth it.
Right. That's the tricky thing that kind of brings the next kind of topic is the um just being on the spiritual path, how it is challenging. Like you said, you're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're going through that growth process. It's uncomfortable. But at the same time, once you get through it, it's like a finding treasure. It almost seems like it's rewarding.
Hmm.
Um, what 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 has helped you, or with maybe clients that you work with? What do you see helps people walk along that path? Maybe it's the courage or other things, but just working through those uncomfortable times, through the growth and getting to those nuggets of wisdom and all that.
Yeah, great question. Because the number one thing that is going to support a person in moving forward is having some kind of you call it a why or a
Mm.
desire. In other words, if it's easy to get, and I know I did for a lot of years, couple decades, just get lost in that. I call it the rabbit hole of just going deeper and deeper into the pain. And it's easy to focus on or ask yourself the question, okay, what have I done wrong, or what do I need to fix here? We often
Mm.
get stuck on that. Like, okay, there's something I need to fix here, and then everything's going to be better. That's not how it works.
Mhm.
Because if you look at it energetically, the energy just keeps looping. Because when you fix something, then there's always something else. There's always something else. So what you want to do is have some kind of a vision or some kind of a desire that you want to move forward to. And it can be, so a lot of people say want to have more money.
Mhm.
What for? I mean, the reason we have more money is one, yes, to have some in the bank so we can know we've got that. But really, the real reason we have more money is for experiences. We don't have money for the
Mm.
sake of having, a piece of paper or a credit card. We have it to experience life, and that's why we're here. And that's where that's where people get stuck because
Mhm.
they know they want to travel. I hear that all the time. Like, I want to travel. That's number one thing. I want to travel. So in other words, you're looking for the experience of life and to interact with people. And so what I'll say to a client is, okay, so let's take the subject of money and travel. Okay, so you want more money. Why do you want more money? It can be travel or a new car. I want to spend more time with my grandkids. I want to retire. I want to start a business, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And let's say it's travel. So they go from money to travel, but then I don't know, I just want to travel. Well, where do you want to travel to? Start to get specific on it. Okay, so you want to go to Spain. Why Spain? And start to connect to, create in your mind some experiences. I want to go here and such. And then as they do that, that fear is going to come up.
Ah.
And now a person can either, because see, like I said, my whole goal in life was to be invisible.
Mm.
And I did a really good job of that for a lot of years. So this means interacting with others, interacting with having different experiences and such. And if you believe the world is a unsafe place, a bad place, like you're scared to venture out into the world and have experiences with different interactions, different people, or even go somewhere where you don't really know the language, that's going to bring up all the fear.
Mm.
However, so the fear is there. So now let's say a person's here and you've created a desire to move forward to. Now, as you vision that and you emotionally connect to that desire, you know what? Yeah, I would like to travel. I would like to see that place. I want a new car. I want to be able to spend more time with my grandkids, or, I want to buy that house. And you feel yourself in the house and what it's going to be like to, own that house and be able to fix it up and your
Mm.
yard and everything else. So you're emotionally connecting to that, so that it's like an emotional magnet, that it's like a magnet.
Mm.
Basically, the more you emotionally connect to that, you magnetize yourself to that, and you magnetize that vision to yourself. So now you've got that, that magnetism, so that you're coming closer to that.
Mm.
Now, fear is going to come up. That fear is what happens as you desire something and you really create the emotional connection with that, is you're stepping out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
Now, the emotional energies we grew up in, so the emotional field, let's say there's anger, shame, guilt, anxiety, disappointment, the core beliefs are not enough,
Mm.
never feeling safe and such. So as you magnetically attract or emotionally connect to that desire, you're stepping out of that energy field of anger, sadness, grief, feeling not good
Mm.
enough. However, that's what you're used to. See, what's familiar is comforting, what's comforting is your comfort zone. So the pole is back to that. In moments of stress, we default to the comfort zone. We all do that.
Mm.
So that's why the desire and knowing what you want to move forward to is so powerful, because like I said, in moments of stress, we default to the comfort zone.
Mm.
And it's because it's a comfortable place.
Right.
It's easy to stay stuck there. And if when your desire is great enough, even though it's comfortable in the comfort zone, you're going to be looking at this going, oh, but you know what? I really want to travel. I want to interact. Like my grandkids are getting older. I want to spend more time with them. I want to take them places. I want to buy a house, different things like this. I want to go swim with the dolphins,
Mm.
or go on a multi-day hike, anything like that.
Mhm.
And when that pull is strong enough, that is going to eventually, it will become more powerful. The pull towards that, the magnetic emotional charge and pull towards that will become more powerful than staying in your comfort zone. So now it's like you're traveling between the third dimension of guilt, shame, fear, anger, and such. And we've, all been birthed into that. Our ancestors were birthed into that, into the higher dimensional field of what
Mm.
I call the new earth, or the fifth dimension, where
Mm.
you're creating. There's gratitude, there's fun,
Mm.
laughter, adventure, excitement in that. And that portal you're traveling is the fourth dimension. So that's when you do your inner work in. Fear is, I like to
Mm.
say fear is a coward. It's there, but once, just like a bully. Most bullies are, when you actually stand up to them, they're cowards.
Mm.
Fear is a coward. Once you can step into fear and, like I say, open the door to fear, it won't be there. and you just walk through. But
Mm,
it's that emotional magnetic charge to your desires that will make it so powerful. You will be ready to step into that fear. So the
mm,
first thing I say, kind of a long answer to your question there,
mm,
but the first thing and I ask all my clients, whether, the first time I meet them is, what do you desire? What do you want to move forward to? Because otherwise, see, energetically, you're just looping. It just keeps looping. You keep going down that rabbit hole and you come out and then you go back down it. But if you have something you're moving forward to, you go down the rabbit hole, you figure it out, and then the energy moves out. So instead of looping, it's moving out forward when you have something to desire. So that's the first thing. If anybody's
mm,
feeling stuck, what do you want to move forward to? And let's say somebody's, they're listening and they're like, yeah, I know what I want to move forward to. I've written this down.
mm,
Really get into the motion of that. And that's going to bring up what it does. It brings up the unconscious conditioned self. Well, you
mm,
can't do this. You're not good enough and such.
mm,
And then you can do clearing techniques on that, releasing, but also notice how you talk to yourself. If you talk to yourself, everything is energy. We are energy beings. Words are energy,
mm,
vibration and frequency. Words can support you and support your immune system and your health, or they can, take you down. They can destroy your health as well. So if you're saying, I'm not good enough, why do I always get this wrong? That's going to make you feel heavy and eventually affect your health and your immune system.
mm,
But if you're saying, you know what? I appreciate myself. I appreciate everything I have done to get to this place. And I acknowledge, the courage within me. And I like myself and I'm ready to take action and admit to yourself. And I've done this many times, admit that, yeah, I'm scared. In fact, I'm terrified. But
mm,
you know what? I'm going to move forward and go through this anyways, because I know on the other side of that, there's freedom.
mm. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's such a tricky process, but yeah, it's that I think that's the thing. It's if people know what's on the other side of fear, that's like so inspiring to kind of like or motivate. Oh yeah, this is the why, why I need to keep moving forward. It sounds like.
Exactly. On the other side of fear. That's a really, because it's like that third dimension, the fourth dimension, the portal is the fourth dimension is the portal. That's where you're doing your inner work and processing. And that's where you're moving through the fear. And on the other side of that is freedom. It's fun. It's laughter. It's spending, buying your house, traveling. It's having these amazing interactions and such, whatever your heart's desires are. So yeah, on
Mm,
the other side of the fear is the fifth dimension, is that angelic divine presence.
that's awesome. And are these the things, I don't know if there's any other things you might want to talk about or mention, but just what becomes so rewarding for yourself or people that you've worked with when they get through that discomfort and the growth and make it through the other side of that door beyond the fear and the things that they get to enjoy or have or, you know, open up to. Is there any things that come to mind just in kind of your personal journey or people you've worked with where they step through and like, wow, okay, this I knew it was there, but now I can like actually have it. It seems real to me.
Well, one I just got this morning is somebody who just had a session, well, yesterday, like I worked from the
Mm,
picture, so it was just the audio I sent her.
mm,
And she listened to it and she said, I woke up this morning, she said, I felt different. It was more like I was me, I was myself. And
ah,
that's just for, one brief recording that I sent her.
mm,
Other people have, a lot of people say, I'm like new ideas are coming in. I've never looked at it this way. And that's that sense of freedom, just looking at things from a higher perspective and understanding. Some people have bought houses. I don't know why. I seem to have 4 or 5 clients that have, even those that have just had a single session with me.
mm.
We worked on money issues and just getting to the core of that. They've been looking for a house, the right house, and but to make an offer and one they can afford. For one woman was 5 years. And after
Oh,
one
wow.
single session with me, I didn't even know it. She says, just work on money issues. So that's what we did. It
Mm,
was like a 30-minute recording, sent it to her, and she emailed me about I guess it was about a year later, and said, "I'd been looking for a house for 5 years. I couldn't find anything I wanted that was within my price range." She said, "After listening to, your recording, I made an offer on a house, closed on it 6 months, like, after she'd worked with me,
Mhm.
and she was living in the house, and yeah, and it was just and that's happened. I've got, had several clients with that.
Mm.
One big thing that happens constantly is relationships improve, or sometimes people realize they're not working out any longer.
Mm.
But one of the things me and my guides can do is identify the frequencies between two people or a group of people
Mm.
and release those. So the emotional frequencies, and release those and create a flow of harmony.
Mm.
And I've had people say that, I remember one woman saying she'd been married something like 37 years. And I called a clearing. After I did the clearing for her and sent her the recording, she said our anniversary was the next day.
Mm.
And my husband, I don't remember the exact words, but her husband had told her how good she looked, how much he appreciated her, something like that.
Ah.
And he said he hasn't said that in years.
Oh, wow.
And it's just releasing any tension or dense energies between two people and creating a flow of harmony. So big
Mm.
difference in relationships. I hear that often from people, how relationships have improved. Or, like I said, people realize that, you know what, we're just two different people now, two different consciousness, or they're realizing how they've been treated and it's time to move on.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. That's amazing. Um it sounds like what you're mentioning earlier, almost at least from my perspective, I'm curious kind of what you would say on it, but just almost going from like ego to spirit. You're mentioning all the lower emotions and denser energies, and then kind of, working through until you get the other side of fear. And then there's all this things related to spirits, like you said, the abundance or the joy and freedom. Is that
yes.
how you kind of see that or that journey?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So think of the third dimension, I also call it the matrix, as we've been birthed into it. It's an, energy field. These are all energy fields, like an energetic space. And
Mm.
our ancestors have been birthed into it for, hundreds, thousands of years. And it's fear-based. It's like a thread that, fear is the thread that holds it all together. And anything that aligns with fear, anxiety, shame, guilt, anger, disappointment, and all those limiting beliefs, not enough,
Mm.
feeling not wanted in that is all uh, anchored in that third dimension. And we all know what that feels like. If you feel depressed, if you feel heavy in your body, if you feel lethargic, if it's just hard to take action, if you feel almost kind of numbed out,
Mm.
anything like that, you're in the third dimension. So, and that's where uh, understanding, writing down your heart's desires, you
Mm.
start to move. See, if you're just stuck in that, it's just like a ball of energy and you're just stuck. But
Mm.
once you can say, you know what, even if it's very tentative, I would kind of like to travel, or maybe I'd like to do this. But once you even just say it, even if it's, with doubt, it creates an energy. So you start to move out of that third dimension. The fifth dimension, or what I call the space of the new earth,
Mm.
is, yeah, gratitude, happiness, fun, freedom, lightness, abundance, flow, ease, inspiration, creativity, appreciation, peace, adventure, all of that.
Mm.
And then, so these are spaces, but see, physically we know what the space of the third dimension feels like, because it can feel heavy, it can feel lethargic, you can feel tired, or get your energy and your thoughts get all mixed up, because that's what fear does, makes you feel all mixed up and confused in that.
Mm.
And so we know what that feels like, and again, that's like a default because we're used to that, it's familiar. We've also, those, been on the path. As soon as you get on the path, part of the reason people get on this spiritual path is because when you're in that space of higher dimensions, like you said, of spirit, there's
Mm.
flow, There's ease. Just take a deep breath in. There's ease. There's gratitude. You feel that sense of space.
Mm,
And then in between that is, I think of it as a pathway. In fact, sometimes vision this with my clients. It's
mm,
like a pathway, and you're moving forward along that pathway. And it's a journey. And yes, you're going, so you know what the feeling of that beautiful new earth space is, and bring your body in that space as well. Like when you appreciate your body, you appreciate what your body can do for you, you speak with kindness to your body, you're bringing your physical self into that newer space as well.
mm,
And as we go back and forth between the third dimension and the fifth dimension, and we're not here as light beings and seeding light on, in this, in the humanity, the density of human consciousness. We're here to spend time in that space of light and freedom and beauty and
mm,
kindness and expansiveness. And then something will happen, a bill will come in, or something, we'll hear something that will bring us back into the third dimension. But ultimately, we're seeding that light into the third dimension.
mm,
And so even if a person is not actually doing, healing work or coaching or such, if you're listening to this, you're a light, you're here to see the light, and you are serving a purpose by doing your inner work and by spending time in these different realms of consciousness.
mm. And with this is always a big thing around courage. Is I think sometimes people think that sometimes courage is like that bridge between the like the third to the fifth, kind of how you're saying that. Um, that there's no fear at all. It's to me, at least from my experience, it's that there's still the fear. It's just the courage kind of helps drive me forward, where I've seen other people drive forward. Eventually, the fear seems to kind of go away, for me at least, when I walk through that other door. Is that a misconception that you've ran into, or people you have in this world? You think that there's just no fear, like it's total fearless?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's so much fear. And still every time, like with myself, every time I decide to expand my business, there's
Hmm.
more fear. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so much fear. Am I ever going to, it's just fear. But yes, it's that courage. So you have the desire, okay, this one I want to move forward to. You're in fear. You tap into that courage, which is often your self-talk, or say, you know what? This is going to happen.
Mm,
One way to tap into that courage is you want to start believing it's possible. See, if you don't believe, if a person doesn't even believe it's possible, it's like, why even bother? It's not possible anyway. So before I got on my first show, that was September 2016. And somebody said to me, you ought to start getting on the shows and such. And I just went, it was 2 years before. And I just laughed and thought, oh, that's not going to happen. Like, who am I to be, speak and such?
mm,
But then I started saying, what if it's possible? What if it's possible? And sure enough, my ego mind or my unconscious conditioned self would come in and say, who do you think you are? And
uh,
all this stuff. But I kept going back to, but what if it is possible? What if it is possible? I said it like a mantra. I even recorded it into my phone for 20 minutes, and I would
mm,
play it, when I went to bed at night, when I woke up in the morning, or say it when I was driving out walking. I'm a big walker. I'd say, what
mm,
if it's possible, like a mantra, sometimes out loud, sometimes silently. And sure enough, 2 years later, when I got the opportunity to go on a show, I was ready and I said yes. And see, what if it's possible? What it does. So what if bypasses the resistance of the ego mind, and then saying possible over and over again expands the energy field, and it allows for opportunities and possibilities and new ideas and new ways of looking at things to come in. But because the your conditioned self is, your unconscious conditioned self is so powerful. I mean, that's what you grew up in. You want to say it like a mantra, what if it's possible? But
mm.
saying that. So you're stuck in the, let's say 3D, and nothing's going to change, just that stuck place.
Yeah.
So first step is to have something you want to move forward to, whatever it is. Even if you don't yet believe it's possible, have something you can move forward to. So now you've got, say, the stuck place, something you want to move forward to. Now start saying, you know what if it is possible? What if this is possible? What if something greater is possible? And just say that like a mantra over and over and over again every day. And, send an email or a text reminder daily to say this. Eventually, you'll remember just to say it.
Mm,
As you do that and you start believing it's possible, that's what will awaken the courage within you. And then, because once you start saying, you know what, I want to do that. And what if that is possible? That's when the courage awakens. And that's when you start to take action. Because if somebody doesn't believe that no matter how much they want something, and often the more we desire something, the more we go, well, that's not possible. Like, I'm not good enough. Who am I to want that and such?
yeah.
But when you start saying, what if it's possible? And just that little bit of energy flow, the courage will awaken within you because you start asking yourself different questions. You start saying, see, what if it's possible? What if it is something greater is actually possible? Is an empowering question. And when you start asking yourself empowering questions, the mind is a Q and A. It's always,
Mm,
question and answer. But usually we're asking ourselves questions like, what's wrong with me? Or how can I fix this? That
mm,
just keeps us stuck. So when you start asking yourself empowering questions, you get empowering answers. And
mm,
then the courage will just automatically awaken within you. And you're like, you know what? This is going to happen. I am going to go out there and do this. And I never in a million years thought I was going to be on the shows, be a
mm.
speaker. I mean, like I said, my whole goal was I wanted to be a hermit, be invisible.
Right.
And but I started saying, what if it's possible? Because I'd gone through, by then about 2 decades of inner work, and I wanted to share this. And anytime I did with somebody, they're like, oh, I never thought of that and such. And I knew I wanted to share it. And plus I couldn't just keep going from job to job.
Mm,
So finally I was actually 53. It was, I guess, 9 years ago now. And I just said, okay, this is happening. And I committed to it. And once I committed to it, heart, mind, body, soul, spirit,
mm.
I started asking myself empowering questions. Because at that time, I had no money, I had no savings, no investments, nobody I could ask for money. I had no credit cards, I had no job, I had no clients,
Oh,
but
wow.
I was committed. So, yeah, I forget your question now, but I guess I answered it.
Yeah, no, yeah. No, that's amazing that it's do you feel like the going through the numerous jobs, like was it like a searching process until you kind of landed like where you're all aspects of you as a being were kind of like, okay, now it's time to do the thing I was really meant to do here. Is
Yeah.
that yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And yeah, every job I had, I learned something about myself. And I have found now some people do this in relationships or in different ways. At least with myself, I didn't realize this at first. Every job I had, there was somebody in there that would trigger something about my childhood, whether it was a family member, even if they're, seem completely different, but
Uh,
something about my past was triggered by something within that job. And so it was, I would learn whatever it was. I spent 20 years doing very intense inner work before I started this full time.
mm-hmm.
And then, it was like, okay, time to move on. I just knew, and I was used to I had the ability to live on next to nothing.
Mm.
I don't know. Looking back, I have no idea how I did it. I lived on air, I guess, but I was close to being homeless
Mm.
several times, but I never, I knew that if did end up on the streets with my mindset, I just knew like that inner knowing that I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to get off. So somehow, every time I got really close to how am I going to be able to make it, I something would come up or another job or
Mm.
my go-to job, and I know a lot of people can't stand them, is a cold caller, telemarketing.
Mm.
But that was my go-to survival job. I mean, I was just trying to survive because
Sure.
ultimately I knew once soon as I started on this path, I wanted to do this. So all of these were just survival jobs.
Mm.
And somehow I made it through till I, committed to doing this full time. But yeah, it took me 20 years of intense inner work and doing whatever I could to be able to believe in myself enough so that I could commit to, doing this full time and working with others.
Hmm. That's awesome. That's yeah, it's interesting. Uh we get in these situations we might not realize is happening, especially like work situations. I find, and there's always, it seems like it's something from the past is playing out in present time. And you
Hmm.
that's what at least that's what I found. So when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, it's getting in these different relationships or workspaces or whatever it might be, then you go, wait a second, this is something in the past just playing out, and now it's I have to work through it somehow.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like relationships are about healing and growth.
Mm,
And so we get into relationships, whether it's work relationships or, romantic relationships. So ultimately, so we can heal and grow through it. But often we get stuck in that.
mm,
And so now in my case, it was, it's always jobs. So I just went from job to job.
mm,
And really one of my highest values are freedom, growth, and integrity.
mm,
And so I knew I wanted to experience freedom. So staying in a job, especially a couple times I worked for, corporate, and I didn't last long there at all because it was
mm,
just, there's no freedom in that whatsoever. But
mm,
I call it somebody who's stuck in a job that wants to leave. I call it the golden handcuffs. And because you're getting often, I never got a pension with any of my jobs, but if you're getting some kind of a pension or company plan and you're getting a income that lets you maybe buy a house or,
uh,
raise, if you've got kids, anything like that. So it's, yeah, golden handcuffs. It's keeping you stuck to that because a job, I call it just over broke. Now we all need to make money. We all
mm,
need to make money. We all, that. But it's so easy to get stuck in that. I'm I'm doing this is what I want. This is what my heart and soul desires. This is how I would love to live and what I would love to be doing, whether
mm,
it's being an artist or a healer or being a truck driver or a plumber, or whatever it is. It's like, this is what I really want to be doing, but I'm comfortable here and I'm making enough money to pay my bills and take care of this and such. And that it takes a lot of courage, a huge amount of courage, and the willingness to change
mm.
to step out of that.
I think what you mentioned at the very end there, I think that's the willingness to change. That's I think that's it seems like not everyone, well, they probably want the change. It's just, are they willing to go through? Because it's almost like, it's sometimes, and I'm sure everybody's experienced this, where you want the change, but do you want to go through the day-to-day process of working through all that, that uncomfortable um, feelings and emotions and thoughts and limiting beliefs? Um, what's when people are at that beginning part, what do you think is helpful when they're kind of aware of like, ah, I want this, but I know it's ahead and I don't know if I actually am willing to go there. If they're at the very beginning, what is
Okay.
help?
That's a
What do
good question because yeah, we all start there. Is well, I say once you're on the path, you can't get off anyways. So
you?
um, So it's like when you're just starting out, you're on the path and you're realizing like, okay, if I keep going forward, there's going to be a lot of change and I'm going to have to go really deep and really look at things. You go into that vulnerable area and,
Yeah,
society does not support us going into the vulnerable areas and that, like emotional intimacy with ourselves or with others, even in relationship. But okay, so if somebody's just starting out, I would say, okay, in 5 years, so take a look at where you are.
mm,
And yes, you've stepped onto the path. You know it's going to be difficult. It's going to be emotionally painful. And there's fear of change. There is with everybody. It doesn't matter what level you're at. There's at least some fear of change there.
sure.
And where are you going to be in 5 years? Do you want to be in the same place? And if nothing changes, are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to be okay 5 years, 10 years?
Mm,
we're all going to be somewhere. If we're still on this planet, we're going to be somewhere. Is that like that? If that person is just starting out, they want to ask themselves, okay, in 5 years, if nothing changes, if I don't take action, if I'm not honest and authentic with myself and doing the inner work, am I going to be okay in 5 years or 10 years
Mm,
or 15 or 8 years, whatever, timeline you want to use? Am I going to be okay with that?
mm,
Because it's like if somebody wants to go back to school or go to college or get their GED or anything like that. In 5 years, if you don't do that, are you going to be okay with that?
mm,
Or if you want to start a business but it's comfortable keeping everything the same. And in 5 years, if you don't start that, or at least put some effort towards starting that business, are you going to be okay if everything, like with yourself, if everything is just the same? I don't mean okay financially, but are you going to be okay with yourself if you're still with the same person in the same job, living in the same place, making the
mm.
same amount of money, interacting with the same people? Like, how are you going to feel about that, is what I mean.
Right.
And so that's what I would say if somebody's just starting out and they're realizing like the intensity of this path
Yeah.
to, just you're going to be somewhere in 5 years. It's easy to get caught up in just the day to day and week to week and even month to month. But when you look ahead, say let's go 10 years.
Mm,
And if you're still on this planet in 10 years, and most of us, have the opportunity to live to old age. So if you're still on the planet in 10 years, and nothing's really changed, and you're in the same relationship and the same job, or your business is at the same level and everything else, emotionally, how do you feel within yourself?
mm. That's such a that's a great question. That's perfect because that's almost like it almost seems more painful knowing when you envision yourself in the same conditions 5 to 10 years in advance. That almost seems worse than, ah, you know what? I'll work through the uncomfortable growth to get to the thing I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, I like that a lot. Um, on your kind of spiritual journey, like on the path, as you say, um, you mentioned everything's energy and we're these beings. Do you work with like spirit guides or angels? Is that something that you've tapped into or that
Um,
helps you
I
or?
I've got guides. Like I don't I've been told twice they're Pleiadian.
Hmm.
I don't know. I really don't like labels. So when I first
Ah,
started, somebody asked me, where are they from? And I'm like, I don't know. And I actually told my guides I don't want to know because I don't want to be able to label them. But I have been
hmm,
told twice that at least some of them are Pleiadians. And I just a big thing about being on this path, if somebody wants to whether hear messages or guidance or even
hmm,
work with others, is trust. If you
hmm.
don't trust what's coming through, like when I'm working or with somebody, I just completely, in other words, you probably heard the saying before, Andrew, you get out of your own way.
Ah, yeah.
And I just completely trust whatever comes through.
Hmm,
And it's uh, so yeah, my guides are somebody told me once I had all the archangels around me. They could see the archangels around me, which I thought was kind of cool. But
yeah.
for me, it's more of a sense and a hearing. So
Hmm,
I will sense, like the work I do specifically, what I do is if somebody gives me, let's say, because I work on the phone, but also just from a picture, the energy in a picture. So
ah,
if somebody gives me an issue, like I'll just look at their picture, and what I'll do is go right into their 95% of who we are is our unconscious conditioning, by conditioning thoughts, beliefs,
hmm,
behaviors, what we've been taught, understandings, points of view, emotions, all that. That's your unconscious conditioning. So as you go through the day and make decisions and talk with others, only 5% is actually conscious. Are we conscious of it?
hmm,
And so that's where we go, is right deep into that unconscious conditioning where trauma and stuck energies are. And we will identify either the core belief or the core emotion that is keeping a person stuck. And once that unravels, then we just follow the stream of consciousness and we'll go deeper and deeper into that
Mm.
until we come to a space of freedom.
Oh,
And I do that simply by, yeah, getting out of my own way and listening what they have to say. Like it's just a clear, a clear connection, I guess you can say.
hmm.
And yeah, so yeah, I have guides that they guide me.
Very cool.
It's them, it's not me, I'm just a messenger.
Ah. um, and then, what message would you say you want to share? It seems like courage is a big part of it, but I guess what is your message to others or the world, or that you want to put out in the world for whoever's listening that's ready to hear that message? What is the thing you're wanting to say or share to people?
You have value. You
Mm,
have value. You have magnificence within you. Believe in that, trust in that, trust in yourself. You came here for a reason and a purpose, and you are so much more than you've been told. Society has told you. And if you desire something greater, and we know you do, then know that it's possible and
mm,
know that you are amazing. You have value within you. You are worthy and you are deserving. And
mm,
receive.
mm,
Let yourself receive all the blessings and gifts the universe has been wanting to bless you with.
mm. I like that. Thanks for sharing that.
If you want, just before we finish, I can do a
Yeah,
little bit of the group process. It would just be a few minutes, but just kind of to,
yeah,
really ground the energy into the more higher dimensions.
yeah, yeah. If you want to do that now,
Okay,
sound good.
sure. Okay, so it's just guided, so just see where we go. Okay, so just take a deep breath in,
Okay.
and there you go. There's already gratitude coming up, and that is a fifth dimensional frequency. It's an amazing frequency to create from. So there's gratitude coming up already. There's a little bit of uncertainty, and the uncertainty is, okay, so what I'm hearing is, what if it's too good to be true? And okay, so any part of you that is saying, yes, this is possible, this is what I desire, but what if it's too good to be true? Like believing in it and believing that it's possible. That is the third dimension trying to keep you stuck and limiting you. So any part of you that is saying, what if it's too good to be true? Feeling this good, this happy, this light, this free, abundant, energized, healthy. There you go. Let's honor and acknowledge that. And any uncertainty that has been stuck within you, any part of you that tells yourself you're not worthy or you don't deserve to be happy, to feel good, to feel free, to be abundant. Let's let go of that on all levels: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, cellular, and throughout all time and space. There you go. A lot of gratitude awakening within you and flowing. There you go. There's some happiness. Okay, awesome. There's some anger coming up. And the reason I say awesome is because that dense energy, so that stuck energy of anger is coming up. That anger is, it's angry because you are expanding and you are believing that something greater is possible. So we're just going to, all emotions, everything is consciousness. So we're just going to not connect to, acknowledge this anger. There you go. Let's, yes, anger, we see you. Okay, so immediately the anger dissipated, and now there's some sadness. And the sadness is because nobody's really ever believed in you, or the people you thought, family, friends, close, that were close to you, especially growing up, you thought they'd support you and they didn't support you. And there's some sadness and grief. So let's acknowledge the sadness and grief of never having really been supported, especially from the people you thought would actually, would be there for you and support your growth and your higher consciousness. Let's just acknowledge that, witness that. There you go. Now, as you're ready, just let go of the sadness and grief. And so that space is created within you and within your energy field for believing in something possible, something that uplifts you, makes you feel like, wow, I am so happy and grateful to be living this life. This is possible. I know now that this is possible, and I am ready. I am ready to align and embody knowing that this is possible and believing in myself and feeling worthy and deserving. There you go. Take a deep breath in. Let that go. Soshoka basava baka wala soshoka basawa laka. Tuka base babaka wala soshoka basawa laka. Awala sa soshoka basawa laka. Tuka base babaka. Awala sa soshoka basawa laka. Wala soshoka basawa laka. There you go, my friend. Namaste.
That was
There
awesome.
you go.
That was very cool. This is what you do.
Yeah, yeah, that's part of what I
Part of it,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, just, yeah, bringing people into that really abundant, expansive space.
Mm.
Yeah. So what I do in a nutshell is we go deep into the unconscious conditioning and we finish up where we just were in that, really expansive space.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I can feel that shift in the releasing happening kind of in my body and space. So,
Awesome. That's good.
Uh, um, so you said that's one thing that you share. Can you is what else do you offer to others or potential clients, people that might want to work with you and progress them on their path?
Okay. Well, they can find out more on my website,
Mhm.
Courage in Action. So yeah, we were talking about courage here. And so it's courageinaction.com. And so I've got audios they can buy, programs, really quite extensive programs that's on, in the shop there.
Mm,
There's a 33 days of healing program, which is 33 days of daily healing plus a lot of bonuses. I offer that 3, 4 times a year.
mm,
And they can check that out on the website. They can also, anybody who wants free stuff, there's a
mm,
messages from Spirit ebook there.
mm,
Just enter your email and you get both written messages and they're quite extensive messages. And
mm,
then there's also audios there. There's, I think, about an hour and a half to 2 hours of MP3. So they've got both of those. If they just, it's called the Messages from Spirit ebook.
mm,
And then, like I mentioned, if they want to work one-on-one, there's either a phone session, so that's an interactive session. And
mhm,
I also work with people who, if they're called remote clearings or remote scans and clearings, and there's different levels, they just send me a picture and an issue, and
mm,
the beauty about energy, just working from the pictures, energy doesn't lie.
mm,
And so we just go right deep, quickly, very quickly. We go deep into the unconscious, clear out what's going on. And in fact, like I mentioned, there's been, I don't know, 4 or 5 people that for whatever reason, after working with me, they've been able to buy houses.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was, yeah, I know that first woman, whoever contacted me, Anne, she just had that. It's a 25 to 30 minute clearing, and she had that done. And
Nice.
from that, and she just said, I just want to increase my financial abundance. Sent me her
Mm,
picture. And that's, one of the remote clearings. And for some people, they really like that, just be able to send a picture and then let's do it at their convenience.
mhm.
So there's free stuff there. There's a shop there, and they can also work one-on-one. And that's at courageinaction.com.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, I'll make sure I link that below in the description so people can just kind of click on that and go right to the site, check that out. Um, is there anything you feel that we didn't cover that you feel like you want to share or go over, or do you feel good?
I would just a little bit of let's sum it up a little bit. So you asked at the beginning
Sure.
how to move out of that 3D space. So if somebody's wondering how to do that,
Hmm.
first of all, have some kind of a desire or picture or a vision. A dream board is good here. A
Mm.
vision board, dream
Yeah.
board. where you put your pictures or your words up. But the thing is, you just don't want to have that up on the wall and, dream or a vision board. You want to emotionally connect to that. So
Mm,
emotionally connect to that, or just vision it in your mind or write it out and emotionally connect to that. And then say, what if it's possible? And as you say,
mm,
what if it's possible? New ideas will come in and you will open up to your courage.
mm,
And then you start asking yourself empowering questions. And so I would say that's one. And the other one is that great question you asked me is, if somebody's just starting on the path and they're not sure they want to continue,
mm.
ask yourself, well, where do I want to be in 5 years? If I'm here, like if everything is still the same, am I going to be okay with that? That can be a really powerful question
Yeah.
to ask.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. 'Cause I know people that would benefit from that question if they really looked at that and go, "Whoa, wait a second. I want to keep going."
Yeah.
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 Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing kind of your wisdom and what you offer in your practice and to the world. It was really great to meet you, and who knows, maybe in the future we can do this again. So,
That would be awesome. And thank you for having me on the show, Andrew. It's been great. And
yeah,
thank you for letting me share and do the group process. I always love to do that.
absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate that. Well, thanks again, Joy. And then everyone, thanks for tuning in, and we'll definitely see you next time. Take care.